Well, when I grew up in Compton, it was a different community. It was almost Ozzie and Harriet. My mom, my dad, my brothers. I went to all Compton schools. I always sort of felt that I wasn't supposed to be there, but you know, that's sort of artists. You sort of the standout in the crowd. You don't enjoy the normal things that say the overall crowd enjoys. Then '65 was the riot. Then the community changed a lot. It went from a mixture of black white to almost no white to almost all black. It was still a very normal, quiet community. It didn't change until gangs came in early '70s, drugs came in middle '70s, and then it sort of went sort of downhill for a long period of time. I think they're working very hard on bringing the community up. The three artists that first impressed me was Michelangelo, because my father had this big Bible, one of these big, excuse me, $100 Bibles that had all these beautiful full color reproductions. And they were all from Michelangelo's 16 ceiling. So for a period of time, I thought I was going to be a painter and paint 16 ceilings. And the second artist that most impressed me was Charles White. There was a movie starring Sammy Davis Jr. and Eartha Kitt, and they used Charles White's drawings at the beginning and the end of the movie. And I remember watching it on, used to be these all-day shows. Remember, television was very young in the early 60s. So you'd have like the $1 Million Movie that played one movie a day, and it would play it every hour on the hour. So you could see this movies over and over again. And I just kept watching these drawings by Charles White. And the other one was Norman Rockwell. Almost everybody was impressed with Norman Rockwell. There's a big generational difference between me and my dad in age. He was like in his 40s when I was born. So his attitude was more of, you need a job. He couldn't see how being a fine artist could support me. And then that all changed when I decided to go from, say, a traditional art, drawing, painting approach to photography. Because he understood how photography, I could make money. As a matter of fact, he was the first African American to be hired to work on the back lot of Universal Studios. I mean, of course, there were some actors as far as working on the back lot. He was brought in as a custodian. He was later on advanced to, he went to the special effects department, the props department. But he understood lighting and understood how photographers could make money, things he learned when he was working in the props department that he picked up. And he was my first lighting teacher, because he would come home and we'd sit back and watch movies, and he would sit back and say, you know, this lighting is happening here, you see how the light's on the face, you know, what three-point lighting was, things like that. And we would just have these discussions. My dad, I guess in another life, would have loved to have been a filmmaker. He like on our block, he was the first one with a Super 8 camera. He used to film the neighborhood. He would bring the screen out and show little Super 8 movies he made, and had little editing stuff, and you know, and show the whole neighborhood and what everybody would look like sort of on square widescreen. And at that point, I decided to start focusing more and more on photography. It was a great thing because it was something I needed. Everything that's happened is taking me in the direction I'm going. My dad pulling together Lewis Williams, who later on hired me full-time at Compton College to teach photography, who gave me my first job to work with Wes Hall, doing creative stuff, which was the beginning. I've never had a job that has not been involved in the creative aspects. When my dad got me involved with the Communicative Arts Academy, and then John Onderbridge left the Communicative Arts Academy and went to the Watts Towers Art Center. Well, I followed him over to the Watts Towers Art Center. And for 2 years, I volunteered at the Watts Towers Art Center. Then they got hired on at the Watts Towers Art Center as an art instructor, later becoming director of the Watts Towers Art Center. In that whole process, I went from doing documentary work, learning documentary photography. Then I became a medical photographer, because that's who they hired to do medical photography, because we don't faint at the sign of blood. Even though the first time I was in a surgery, I sort of screamed. And it just went on from there. It's all in that process. And I have no control over it. This was an idea for, I thought for one piece, and it wound up being two pieces. This is an artist named Robert Vargas, who does these really great portraits, charcoal portraits. and he's really live and active into doing his portraits. So he's actually drawing me. And while he's drawing me, I'm photographing him drawing me. And I wanted to give him something in return. So what I did was I photographed my hands. Well, actually, I photographed one hand and then flipped it, as though I'm holding the picture of him drawing me. And it's a transparency. That's why you can see my fingers coming through. The second one that came from this is this image here. And I still have the hands. Except I've taken the body out of the center. I've moved the hands. Now, I call this to two Marys. So what I did was I just took her face and I flipped it. And then I put in this picture of the earth with crowns representing Jesus. And the hands being God. So if you're in the Christian thing, it's all this Christian stuff that's in here. One of my favorite pieces. I had photographed some students. Paid them to model for me. They're a couple. I just got some really good composition out of what I did, and I wanted to do some things with it. So this is one of the pieces that I came up with. And it's design and structure and motion and all that good stuff that's supposed to be going in there. As all this stuff is happening, it's like, okay, is it balanced? Mm-hmm. Is the composition flowing? And can I see what I need to see? And what do I need to get to this point? When I started doing the Monk project, the whole initial idea was to go back and bring back that energy that I had when I was younger and bring it forward. Now, there are other projects that mean all kinds of other things. It depends on what's affecting me at the time. I got this shot that reminded me very much of an old Civil War general. And in positioning in the head and everything. So playing around with it, I wanted to give it that aged look and everything. And self-portrait of me. I remember when I was a student at Art Center, there was illustrators, instructors, who had file cabinets of drawings and sketches and ideas and thoughts, you know. Now I sort of keep them on my computer, which is really great. When I was working for the city, one of the great things about working for the city was copiers. And I went through this period where I was like really bored. There was nothing to do during the day, and my job was to watch the building until it, you know. So I Xerox friends. If you put continuous tone things on them, you got these really interesting looks. So one day my son, who is now, he's tall as I am, if not taller, but then he was little, came to work with me. And what I actually loved was after work, I took him home. His mother goes, "Oh, so you spent the day with Daddy at work. What do you do?" "Oh, he took all my clothes off and laid me on the copy machine. He took pictures and made copies of these." She's like, "What?" It's called the Black Project right now, because the idea I somewhat have is printing these very large. And I also copied me. But the idea would be to have these blown very large, printed very large, and then with a lot more black space on a certain area, where you would have one aspect of the face here and maybe more black around it. That's right now. No guarantees. The project that I'm working on now, this is where it started. 10 years ago, I did this piece. It's from an image show. This is one of my sons when I was younger. An early Earth picture. Money that was scanned in the computer. And I did this piece and a couple of others, and that was that. There are certain elements that they all have, a part of this, that they have to have. It has to have the American flag. Sometimes they have the Confederate flag, but it doesn't have to have the Confederate flag. It has to have the American flag, and it has to have the slave ship image in this pieces for this body of work. Anything that has that is a part of that body of work. And then I went on to do some more storytelling pieces using found imagery. I'm also very much a fan of Thomas Nest, who was an artist during the Civil War period who illustrated, I guess I would say, on our side of the war. And he had done a piece called Emancipation Proclamation, where you have Lincoln at the top, and then in here was the Emancipation Proclamation. And so what I did was he did all these really great line work pieces. So I wanted to incorporate something into it. So I took the emancipation part out, and I put the original piece I put in. I took Lincoln out and put it as a penny. Lincoln is the penny because the penny is made out of copper, and Lincoln freed the slaves, and that brown color is a representation of Lincoln freeing the slaves, and that's why they put Lincoln on the penny. So I have Lincoln up there at the top as a penny instead of the original Thomas Ness drawing, and then I put me into the piece, and I've also changed my design some, and I actually added forms of women into the slave ship design. So that's how the piece changed over from the original piece that you saw to this piece here. So these are my beliefs, not throwing in trying not to throw in a lot of other people's beliefs, but you find out seeing that the beliefs are. So I very much have a lot of. So you see a lot of Egyptian stuff, and I like side views because beautiful faces are seen from the side, just like the Egyptians' drawings. So you see all those type of elements involved because I've been affected by everybody. You know, from Mayan culture to Native American culture, different aspects of Native American culture, Chinese culture, of course African, different parts of Africa, from Egyptian to South African. All those things are a part of my overall experience, and the overall experience is a part of what I did. I am very much into letting what happens happen. I've come to that point because I'm not good at directing it. When I've done the thing I'm supposed to do as far as the direction, and it hasn't worked. My marriage didn't work. My director of the Watchtowers didn't work. Me at Compton College didn't work. But you let it flow. And all of that made me a better artist. So, and obviously I have to go in the direction of the art. Wherever it goes, it goes. That's all I can say. I can't sit back and say, I want to be doing, one of us say, I want to be selling a piece for $100 million and living here in the Hamptons and doing. That's not realistic to me. What I want to do is I want to continue creating great work I feel is great. If other people feel it's great, that's fine. That's one reason I don't really like going to receptions too much, because I really don't want to hear anybody's point of view. Except people who I invite. There are artists who I respect who I invite because they're going to sit back and tell me more than, this is good or this is bad. Well, I know it's good, or I wouldn't try to hang it. That's my attitude. But then again, if you like it, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I'm getting more used to things like that. But I'll send out, I'll email this to my friends and say, okay, give me your opinion. I'm actually starting now to consider taking some of their opinions and exhibiting the opinions with the piece. That's something that's working in my mind right now. But as far as where I'm going, I just hope I keep going. Because when it ends, it's I got no control over it.